The title of this video is From Topic to Thesis, Getting Your Research Started. Working on any research project, whether that's a research paper for class or a larger project like a thesis or a dissertation, involves making an assertion about a topic or area of study, and then setting out to prove that assertion by doing the appropriate research and then writing the final product. It moves from a general topic to a particular argument by way of a question for which you find the answer in your studies and in your writing. So you could think of moving from topic to thesis along these lines. You start with your topic, and then you move to your research question, and then you move to your thesis, which is an argument that you're going to make in the research paper. And so what I want to do is talk very briefly about these three things so that you'll know how they differ and how you can use them profitably in getting the work done for this class. The first is the topic. The topic is basically an area of study. Sometimes it's chosen for you, but sometimes you have some freedom to choose depending upon what your professor wants. But in this topic is the area where you will research and do your writing. Some topics are very specific, but often they're framed fairly generally to allow you some latitude in how you approach the work and the research. In biblical studies, a topic can be a specific passage of Scripture, a theological idea, or any other area of study that's drawn from the biblical text. For the purposes of the examples in these videos, we are using as our topic a biblical theology of wisdom from the poem about the wise woman in Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 31. Now note that this is a general area of study. It doesn't assert anything, so that means you have to bring specificity to the research, and that's where the research question comes into play. So a research question is essentially a question that focuses your thinking on the particular topic. It could be something that illuminates your interest. It could highlight a problem. It could focus on a particular aspect of the problem that you want to elucidate. So basically, it takes the broad topic and puts it through a funnel. It reduces it to a manageable scope. Now, there's no right or wrong research question to ask. All questions are legitimate. Some are viable, but some are not. The issue is there evidence that you can investigate which will help you answer that question? So if we go back to our particular topic that we're choosing as an example, a biblical theology of wisdom from the poem about the wise woman in Proverbs 31, 10 through 31, a research question which focuses on this will help hone your thinking. Now again, it has to be a question that is answerable from the evidence that we have. So for example, an illegitimate question would be, how does social media through the iPhone help the wise woman in Proverbs 31? That's not anything that's appropriate because there's no evidence that they had social media and iPhones back when Proverbs 31 was written. But there are some ways we can question the topic that will frame our thinking. So let me give you a couple of examples that will serve our purposes. The first would be, what does wisdom look like in a godly woman's life? This is a legitimate question because you know you'll be able to answer it by examining the text and by reading about the text in secondary sources. The same is true for the second question. What does a godly wife look like and how is wisdom directing her? Again, this is a good question because it can be answered with the evidence that we have available to us in the text and in secondary sources that discuss our text. So the research question focuses your attention, but it does not offer an answer. That's the role of the thesis. So the thesis is an answer to the research question you have posed. It's an argument that makes a claim that can be defended and answered with evidence. It makes a claim in that it asserts a particular answer to your research question, and it can be defended with evidence in that it deals with the actual data that you have available related to the topic. Now, the shape of the thesis can change as your research progresses. You might, for example, start with one answer and move to another as you do more research, and that's certainly okay. But the goal is that the thesis will ultimately answer the question with the available evidence that we have. And so let's go back to our sample topic. Our sample topic is a biblical theology of wisdom from the poem about the wise woman in Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 31. And I'm going to use this research question. What does wisdom look like in a godly woman's life? And as we think about how to answer that question, here is one possible thesis. There are others, but this is a possible way to answer this question that can then be supported by the data from the passage and extra biblical sources. And that would be, Wisdom in a godly woman's life is characterized by proper management of God-given talents and resources to the benefit of others. The goal of the research is to prove that question, and then the goal of the research paper is to develop and support that in written form. So walking through this process from a general topic to a research question and then to a defensible thesis, that's the nature of good research. You're using it in this class in a research paper, but you'll use this in many different ways, in many different forms, because it's a basic way that research is done. So I want to encourage you to put this into practice well for this paper, and it will serve you well as you get done with this class and move on into other areas of research.